Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. In this video we're going to talk about one of what we think is probably one of the best albums of all time. One of the most important albums of all time. You ready? Here we go. It's the Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys. What a great album this is. You hold the cover. So yeah, this is just like, this is the 50th anniversary stereo reissue, as you can see by the sticker. And this is the record on the Rainbow Capital label. And we've just listened to this to like sort of get our thoughts together on the album. I needed to listen to it because I've not listened to it in a while. And this record sounds really good. If you've not got this album, I'd recommend getting this version because this version sounds so good. Have you got the mono version?
I've got the mono one, yeah.
How does it sound compared to this?
It does sound really, it sounds good still.
Really? Fair enough. I mean, was it mixed in mono originally by Brian Wilson? I can't remember.
I don't know.
But yeah, anyway, this album is very important for a number of reasons. It's very important because it inspired the Beatles. They were sort of, for a short period in the mid-60s, they were sort of in competition with the Beatles and they were trying to better each other. So the Beatles they listened to Bob Dylan and then they had like a sort of folk influence a bit on Norwegian Wood. Yeah. And they sort of brought in the Eastern elements of George Harrison's sitar and some songs. They sort of changed it up how they were writing songs, and that was a very important album. And then the Beach Boys heard that, or Brian Wilson heard that, and then he started writing Pet Sounds. And like the arrangements of the songs on this album are just like,
and even the chord changes,
otherworldly, really.
The chord changes as well for everything.
And they've got there's a lot of string arrangements to these songs, and they just sound so. They're just really beautiful songs.
Majestic, really.
Really majestic, beautifully produced. Brian Wilson was just like on a whole nother level when he was like making this album.
Oh, there's a lot of acid one.
Yeah. he collaborated with songwriters to like write the lyrics, I think.
Yeah,
but
he did.
When it came to writing the music, he was just like, he was experimenting with drugs, obviously, but in this case, it elevated his like creativity to new levels, I guess.
Yeah.
And then what the point I was going with was like, once Paul McCartney especially heard this album, he sort of got the inspiration to work on Sgt. Pepper.
Or to do Sgt. Pepper,
yeah.
Was the thing.
Like Rubber Soul and Revolver sort of came out, and Pet Sounds came around the same time as Revolver, and then the Beatles heard Pet Sounds and they sort of went on to write Sgt. Pepper, which is probably hailed as one of the most important albums of all time as well, in terms of changing the popular music scene forever. But yeah, the album cover, we were just talking about how the album cover, we don't really...
It's terrible.
It's not a great album cover, but it's still a pretty iconic
The
cover.
back's better.
Yeah, the back just reminds me of the Beatles albums where like it's just photos of the band on tour and stuff. There's one photo where they're in like Japanese outfits or something. Yes, yeah, when they're in Japan. Yeah, some cool photos on here. I've not got any of the Beach Boys albums, but I'm sure they're quite a similar format. But
what is in the back?
Yeah,
Smiley.
All right. But yeah, I mean the album opens up with "Wouldn't It Be Nice," which is just a classic.
Oh, it's one of the biggest hits.
Yeah, it might be their most famous song actually.
I think so.
It's played on loads of TV adverts, but it's such a beautiful song. It's such a great song about being together and just like doing everything together and not caring, I guess.
And all the harmonies are great on it as well. It's so cool because you can always sing each harmony part as it comes in. Especially on things like "Wouldn't It Be Nice?"
Yeah,
God only knows.
I mean, and the album, it has a lot of slower songs like "You Still Believe in Me." That's one of my favourites. I think that's it. Yeah, I think it's a beautiful song. Brian Wilson's vocals on that song are so good. They're really good. Yeah.
The best part is the high part.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful song. And then songs like "That's Not Me," they've just got really catchy melodies, but they've also got great songwriting, great lyrics. "Don't Talk, Put Your Head on My Shoulder," that's one of your favourites.
It's probably my favourite, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, on YouTube, there's things where Brian Wilson does these backing vocals. He does like 8 overdubs of like the vocals.
Yeah.
And it sounds amazing, but he decided not to use it in the end.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, every song's great, especially on the first side.
Yeah, the first side is the strongest.
Next one is "I'm Waiting for the Day." It's like, "I'm waiting for the day when you can love again."
Yeah, it's
like
a nice song actually.
It's basically writing about a girl who's recently split up with her lover.
Yeah.
And he's waiting for the day when she's ready to love again so that he can
go in. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's written in such a way that it's like so you know
It's not. It doesn't sound creepy.
it's melancholic and stuff like that. Then Let's Go Away for a While is an instrumental, but it's a great instrumental.
To be fair, that's one of my favourite songs on this as well, because it's just
the chord changes. You just don't know where it's going to go.
No, you don't.
When you
It
listen to that song
changes.
for the first time, you don't really know where it's going, and it's like a 2-minute song.
2.5 minutes.
Yeah, it's like
there's about 3 different sections to it.
It's got so much in it, and it's a 2.5 minute song. Then Sloop John B is probably one of the more famous songs on the album. It's quite a simple little, almost like nursery sounding song, but it's got great harmonies. All these songs have amazing harmonies. They were a really talented harmony vocal group.
I mean, but with Sloop John B, we're both not that into it compared to everything else.
Yeah, it's not one of the absolute standout. Every song on this album is great, but it's not amazing.
Whereas it's hailed quite.
I don't really know if it is that much, but
crowds go wild when it's live.
I guess it's just because it's a good song to sing along to.
That's true.
Side 2 opens up with God Only Knows, which is probably the best song.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the best songs of all time. It's a beautiful song. Beautiful,
quite sad, but
beautiful chord. Yeah, it's a really sad song. Didn't Paul McCartney say like it's one of the saddest songs he's heard? Or something? I think he said it really emotionally impacted him when he heard it.
I think it probably emotionally impacted me as well.
Yeah, it's a really sad song, but it's also really beautiful. Beautiful harmonies, beautiful chord progressions, just a great, really well written song. I Know There's an Answer, another great song. It's just they've all got really catchy melodies.
Everything is another great song.
Yeah,
because it is.
They've all got such catchy melodies and such like creative arrangements that are so different for the time it came out. Like it's really just completely different.
And the whole band works quite well together in terms of harmonies still. And going off Brian's ideas pretty much.
Yeah, like it's just one of those. It's like when any band in their career they have that period where they're just on the ball and they're just working so well creatively together. This is the album for the Beach Boys. It's just such a shame that Brian Wilson pretty much he just got ill after this really.
Well, yes, from all the drugs, isn't it? He got
drugs. He just couldn't. They couldn't make another album like this really. They couldn't continue.
He got like really paranoid. I think he had like a really bad trip, and from then he just like started getting really paranoid about everything.
It's sad that they couldn't.
Well, because he basically withdrew from the Beach Boys as well after. They did like 2 more albums with him, then he took like a 5-year break from them. So, which is quite sad.
It's just sad that they couldn't also recapture the atmosphere of this album either. And
it was never the same again.
No, it wasn't. Just wasn't made for these times. It's another slow song.
But really good.
But really good song. Pet Sounds is the second instrumental. It's not as good as
sings that as well, I think.
Yeah. Pet Sounds is not as good as Let's Go Away for a While, but
it's not as good, but it's alright still. It's a good instrumental.
Caroline No is another beautiful song which closes the album.
It's a good way to end the album.
Yeah. The only thing I find bizarre is that sound effect of the train. I've never understood the barking dog and the freight train at the end with the level crossing. I don't really understand it, but
I mean, I don't know. It's good that it fades out anyway.
Yeah.
And it's not even for that long. It's like 10 to 20 seconds of that.
Yeah, but the just the fact we were just listening to it and I was saying, you know, the fact that this came out like what was it, 57 years ago nearly. It sounds like it was made yesterday. It's one of those albums where I've said this to you before. It's one of those albums that sound like it was made in heaven.
Yeah, like angels singing.
Yeah, there's like a few albums that I think are like Pet Sounds, The Dark Side of the Moon, What's Going On. Maybe 1 or 2 others, but there's very few that sort of have that sort of sound. Where it sounds like literally it was made in heaven. It's just you have to listen to it, and you have to listen to it from start to finish as it was intended. Yeah. As the original album.
Because I remember, because you listened to Pet Sounds as a whole just before I did.
Yeah, and I was saying, then, wow, you have to listen to this album.
And it was like, you said it was like, it's like angels singing.
Because
I remember listening to it and I was just blown away by everything.
I knew quite a few, I knew 2 or 3 of the songs on the album, but like when
everyone knows like, wouldn't it be nice, or God only knows.
But when you listen to the deeper cuts that aren't as well known, you're just like, this is beautiful music.
Still 10 out of 10 songs.
Yeah, but not as well known.
Yeah,
it's just like, it's beautiful music, really is. It's just like there was like just such a great period for Brian Wilson in terms of his creativity, I guess, and his artistry.
I mean, he still kept it going on, but it just obviously wasn't as
he was a very talented songwriter. But the influence of this album is just like, it just splits off in so many directions. You just couldn't you couldn't
can't
pinpoint everything that's influenced, but it's influenced so many things. It'll have influenced bands like Radiohead and, as we said, the Beatles. Anything that came after this, it was one of those. It was one of the sort of the catalysts for really changing modern music at the time, along with Sgt. Pepper. It's like this was the stepping stone to up to Sgt. Pepper, which is why its importance should never be understated, really.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and it's just like, it was this, then it was Revolver, then it was Good Vibrations, and then it was Sgt. Pepper, and I don't think Brian Wilson he couldn't match Sgt. Pepper. He couldn't do it on his own.
No, not enough.
Because as talented as all the Beach Boys were, especially with the harmonies, it was Brian Wilson who was the sole creative force.
I mean, Carl Wilson and Dennis actually wrote quite. I mean, they all actually did write on the later albums. A lot of it is Carl Wilson.
Yeah.
But it's just obviously not as good.
It's not the same, obviously.
It's not the same. It's not as good.
It's not as impactful. But yeah, it's just, it was almost, when you talk about the sort of creative battle between the Beatles and the Beach Boys, it's really between the Beatles and Brian Wilson.
Yeah, pretty much. So it's a.
And it's not a battle in the sense. It's just a creative battle to try and top each other in terms of how brilliant the music that they can produce is. Really,
well, it's really one man against an army.
Yeah, that's
the
point
Beatles are quite big contenders to go up
That's the point I'm making.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a great
They put up
album.
a great fight.
It's a great album that you should definitely listen to. And I've listened to this album like late at night in headphones, and it's just wow. It's one of those albums that you sit down.
It never gets boring.
Yeah,
it never gets boring.
Sit down, turn your phone off, and just listen to the music. Really.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's one of those albums.
I listen to this album quite frequently. I
really enjoyed listening to it because I've not listened to it in a while. It's about a year ago almost where we both discovered it properly, and it's nice that we both discovered it at a similar time as well. But yeah, it's definitely an album. I mean, many people who are watching this will have probably already heard this album, but if you've not listened to it in a while, go listen to it and just remember how great it is. And let us know your thoughts on the album. Do you think it's overrated? Do you think it's great? How did it impact you when you first listened to it? We would love to know. We'll respond in the comments.
I do like responding to comments.
Yeah, it's nice to just chat to people about music.
Yeah.
I just like doing that. But thank you for watching this video, and from us, we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Bye.